But the Eagles winning the Super Bowl, going to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. How do you feel about them right now? How do you feel about kind of like their situation, their legacy of this team with Sirianni, Hurts? They've had so many he said, she said articles the last couple of years that's really kind of funny that it's like, oh, wow, like if you told me Sirianni was going to get fired before this year, I would have been like, yeah. And then they just won the Super Bowl. And I'm like, yeah, that's what this team kind of feels like. But how do you feel about this franchise right now, Matt, after just coming off a very impressive Super Bowl performance?
One of the best quotes all offseason was from our colleague Frank Schwab, who said on the fantasy show this offseason, you could tell me that the Eagles fired Nick Sirianni before Thanksgiving or that they won the Super Bowl, and I wouldn't be surprised by either. So shout out to Frank for that, because that was a banger of a line. And hey, lucky to Eagles fans, they hit the they hit the right side on that range of outcomes there. But yeah, I mean, even in this game, there was a moment where like AJ Brown and Sirianni were kind of jawing back and forth. But you know, that stuff's just so overrated. Like who cares, man? Like if you're winning games, nobody gives a damn about who's yelling at who or who's reading books on sidelines or any of that nonsense, or like, or who's a star receiver comes out and says passing game needs to be better when passing game is barely good enough to beat the freaking Panthers in the middle of the season. Okay, like nobody cares about that stuff when you win games, and when you have when you have really good players, you're going to win games. Like that's the Philadelphia Eagles, and it's a credit to Howie Roseman, who continues to double and triple down at premium positions, but also is smart enough to say, hey, the market has gone too far at the running back position. We have jumped the shark when Gabe Davis and Darnell Mooney are making more money than some of the best running backs in the league. No disrespect to those guys. They're solid players, but like, come on. So again, it's not being, that's what I really like about this team. And what they showed us this offseason is that they're not just, zealots to some kind of, analytics strategy or whatever you want to call it. Like they're smart. Kevin Clark had a really good post from this game where he, from ESPN, of course, our mutual friend, where he said that he went into the Eagles building after the Nick Foles Super Bowl and intended to write like an analytics piece. And somebody within the building laughed at him and said, yeah, we win because we're good in the trenches and everything else comes next. Like that's basically like that's football, man. Like you're strong on both sides of the line. Like this team here win games, and you can have these stupid little squabbles like, oh, Nick Sirianni and AJ Brown are squapping back and forth in this game. Oh, well, AJ Brown dumps the damn Gatorade on Nick Sirianni's head with like 2 minutes left in the ball game. That's got to be the first time in Super Bowl history that Gatorade has come out before the 2-minute warning. Like that is, so who cares about any of this stuff?
I know, what was the over? Yeah, it wasn't the color of the Gatorade shower. It was the over under on time left for the Gatorade dump. No, but winning cures all. I mean, and the NFL, and I always love the line, not for long, but because you can apply it to anything. A player's career, a coach's career, a coach being the hot name, the player being the hot name, what trend is working, like what scheme is working, what trend as far as positional value is working. That's what I love about it. I think it was striking to me that the Chiefs were leaning into RPOs this game, the thing that won the Eagles the Super Bowl last time, and they were getting snuffed out. And the Eagles didn't run any RPOs. They just, it's the separation of church and state. We're going to run the ball, we're going to pass the ball. And we're going to just come right down your throat, and we're going to hit big plays on you. And that's our formula. It also helps when you have better players, of course. But that is what it does. And like when you don't overthink things and you just put players in good positions to succeed, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You know how old school zone coverages with twists and games is? That's what won the Bucks the Super Bowl against the Raiders. It's the exact same formula. And shoot, even how the offense feels like the exact same formula. And so that is kind of funny that like these things just come, like there's different versions of them, don't get me wrong, but the philosophy of good ball never kind of goes away. And as much as like we want Eagles and Howie Roseman to be like, oh, new age, they're on the trend, the cutting edge, and they are. Yeah. It's just very funny that how much of it comes back to, oh yeah, tackling, blocking, running, stopping the run. Like it's funny that it's like that was what it comes down to, even if you find it in different ways or kind of have new ways to find those advantages. So it's really, I really like Eagles fans kind of got on me because a couple of years ago when they made the Super Bowl run, I kind of was just like, I don't really trust this defense. I don't really trust this. Don't really trust Hurts dropping back. But this Eagles team, this is a deserved Super Bowl winner. There is
Oh
nothing
yeah.
fluky about this team, obviously with a 40 burger in the Super Bowl, but I just felt throughout the process of the back 2/3 of the year, it's like, this is one of the best teams. This is why they're a Super Bowl candidate. They have awesome coaches right now. And shout out to Kellen Moore, the future Saints head coach, too. I thought he didn't, again, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. He just didn't do anything stupid. They didn't chase points. They delivered the knockout blow to Devontae Smith, but even leading into that, it was like, hey, this is our game right now. This is the game flow. This is the game script. So when you have good players, good sound coaches, you play good sound ball. This is what it looks like, even if you're playing against the GOAT, like, and one of the best coaches ever. So yeah, hats off to them, everybody in that franchise, all the players, because it's just like a deserved Super Bowl win. I just can't keep coming back to it because I'm just so impressed. Like, I really am. I'm just impressed by how well they were coached and how well this whole team played.
I mean, shoot, Eagles fans getting on you about that Super Bowl a couple years ago. Well, guess what? They didn't win that Super Bowl. Guess what? They win this Super Bowl because this defense is so much better than that unit this year. And I mean, just think about where we were with this defense like a calendar year ago. I mean, they were coming off, miserable performance. Matt Patricia's the coordinator. And they make Matt Patricia the coordinator in like kind of a panic move. So it is an unbelievable turnaround for that side of the ball. And I'm glad that you brought up Kellen Moore. I like that he delivered that twist the knife shot play to Devontae Smith. That was really cool. I thought that things were blocked up well to the points that, like, from a protection plan standpoint, I think they gave Hurts some real good running lanes in the first half. And I mean, even shoot, I know this move is not as like, it's not on the top 5 of Howie Roseman moves in the offseason, but I mean, Jahan Dotson made plays for this team tonight. And obviously, like, I'm a Jahan Dotson guy.
One. Like, that's all you need. That's all you need. That matters.
I mean, he had 2 catches of over 15 plus yards. Like, both of them were explosive, but that first play against man coverage, like you said, and this is a guy that is just like, he's deep into the rotation. I made the joke that when he scored that touchdown against the Packers in the playoffs, what was that? That was the 6-second time to throw play for Jalen Hurts. That's how deep Jahan Dotson is in the progression. And I like Dotson.
He's the 6 second.
We'll get to you in 6 seconds.
It's not 1 to 2 to 3. It's 1 second to 2 seconds to 3 seconds to 4 seconds.
All right, we'll check AJ Brown. Cool. We'll take a look at him. That's not there. Think about scrambling. Actually, let's hang back one more second. We've got Devontae Smith. Maybe I could drop off to Saquon Barkley. We got 6 seconds. Oh, wait, let me take one more look at AJ Brown. Okay, no, now I get it to Jahan Dotson. And like I said, I like Dotson.
Time to dust off the ball and throw it in there. Yeah, that's exactly.
Call in a Uber Eats order, something like that, whatever. I don't know. He's got plenty of time back. He's got time to bake his own damn dinner back there. He's got so much time. Anyways, I like Dotson as a player. I think there's a part of me that thinks he could still have like a productive season for a team, but I mean, you're not ever going to prioritize that guy when you have AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. But like, again, that was just a flyer that they took, and he's come up with some big plays in the postseason. He came with a huge play that got them down to the goal line to get the first touchdown here. So again, it's just another evidence of like consistently good team building by this operation. I know people say, they gave up a 3rd round pick for him. There are obviously other assets in that trade that kind of even things out. So whatever, don't be disingenuous with the analysis. And of course, as promised, I said to my people that if the Eagles won the Super Bowl, my first tweet from my account when we hit double zeros would be Jahan Dotson Super Bowl champion, and nobody keeps it. I promises made, promises kept. Nate Tice.
If the Ravens ever won a Super Bowl, I know I want to do the show with you because it's not about Lamar Jackson winning the Super Bowl. It'd be about Rashad Bateman winning the Super Bowl. I know I'm in great company with that.
What a sick freak I am, but whatever.
Can Desmond Ridder get one? No. All right. So
okay.
Looking into next year, the Eagles are the betting favorites to win the Super Bowl next year at plus 650 on BetMGM. The Ravens are 7-1 plus 700. The Bills are plus 750, 7.5 to 1. The Chiefs are also 7.5 to 1, and the Lions are 8.5 to 1. How funny. 49ers are 6th, even though they missed the playoffs at 13 to 1. You agree that the Eagles should be the favorites going into next year? This is kind of how we'll close this out. Do you consider them? Maybe the better question is, who do you consider the favorites to win it next year? Or do you think the Eagles are going to go back to back?
I mean, I think this team certainly could do it because they are really strong at premium positions. And I mean, obviously, yes, they do have questions on the defensive line. What are we doing with Sweat, who was just magnificent in this game? What are we doing with Milton Williams? I think Williams is probably going to end up, getting $20+ million a year from the Carolina Panthers, something like that. But can we bring
I'm really curious who he ends up with.
Hey, Carolina, pick up the phone. You guys need help, okay? So again, and there's so many teams, I mean, that have just a boatload of cap room. Some of these guys are going to get poached. But man, I have a lot of. If we're going to sit here and say, you know what, we've got to have faith in the Chiefs because they have Patrick Mahomes, they have Andy Reid, they're always in the spot. They can get back here. We also have to say the exact same thing about the Philadelphia Eagles and okay, they'll figure out the trench problem because they always do, because they always churn and burn at that spot. And even if they make some swings,
right,
Bryce Huff or whatever, things don't always work out perfectly for them. They're always strong in that spot. So I have faith there. And I do kind of want to talk about Jalen Hurts here for a second. I mentioned this to Greg Rosenthal on the fantasy show this week that I think he's gotten because I would say he's the weak link of this roster, and that's only because this roster is so good. If you just think of, okay, he's not bad. That is objectively.
I do not think he is bad. He's just the weak link. It's a different story.
And that's freaking awesome. If the weak link of your roster is a guy who is, I don't know, a top 10 quarterback in the league, top 12, something like that.
Top. I'll give him top half.
Sure,
but just still
whatever. Yeah. We'll put it this way: inarguably, top half of the league quarterback is your weak point of your team. Because you have a Hall of Fame running back talent, you have an elite wide receiver who is playing alongside of a guy in Devontae Smith who could be a number one receiver for somebody else. Your offensive line is one of the most badass units in the league, and your defense is the best defense in the NFL. Something's got to be a weak link. So I guess it's Jalen Hurts. Okay, and that's still a guy that has incredible strengths. He doesn't do some of the things, Nate, that I think people like you and I who watch a lot of film and we love to see. I know I'll speak for myself here. Love to see guys operate over the middle and man, you can drop back in the pocket and rip a deep dig against zone coverage and fit that thing in a pinpoint hole. He doesn't do that stuff, but what he does do really well. So I think they have stability at the quarterback position, and they have a guy who will be on his fourth coordinator in 4 years from an offensive standpoint. But the system is the system. Jalen Hurts,
any quarterback ever, man. I know, even if it is his offense, quote unquote. I do not envy that for anybody. But yeah, keep going. Sorry.
No, it's just that. The thing is that we've seen in Philadelphia that you do have to have a guy who can push the right buttons. Right. We did this previously when Shane Steichen moved on. It's Brian Johnson, just promote from within, no problem. It's not always that easy. You do have to have a guy who knows when to hit the right buttons. But so much of the offense always becomes the Jalen Hurts offense that I think that because of that, and because there's so much stability on that offensive side, I think we can feel pretty good about them being the favorite right now to get back here.
I like that. I like that you also brought up the trench reinvestment, I would say, or at least that Howie goes, hey, if I can't get anyone, I'll draft trenches. If I don't get my BPA, I'll go trenches, which is a philosophy that I believe in, which again is so funny that Howie Roseman gets kind of labeled as one guy and how much he believes in the trenches, which is yeah, exactly. World theory, globe theory. But you look at them and it's just so they replenish that. And even on defense, okay, we talked about Sweat, okay, Milton Williams and everything. There's Jalix Hunt making plays. There's a next rookie or next second year guy. Milton Williams was one of these guys last year. He really started flashing in the second half of the year. He didn't start many games, but he was getting a lot more churn last year. That's a franchise building. That is team building. That is just depth. And we think of depth as a stop gaps guy, stepping in for injuries. Yeah. Depth is guys you grow behind the starters. That's what you ideally do. It's easier said than done. Helps when you have an offensive line coach that's been there over a decade. Helps when you have a GM that's been there over a decade. Well, even way longer than that. But depending on the power struggle, it's how
in the GM title or not in the broom closet or whatever.
In some way, shape, or form. But no, what you said about Hurts is that even though he's the weak link, if he plays like this, you can't beat this team or this version of the team, because with Hurts, again, there was one scramble he had on third down. And it was an odd mirror coverage which is when they rush three and two linebackers take one takes the running back, depending on where he goes, and the other one becomes a de facto QB spy. And Hurts went to his first read, and it wasn't that hitch, and he went pause. I'm going to look around, and it goes. He looked at his first read, and he goes, "That's not open. Screw it. I'm getting north." And I was fired up because that like as a former quarterback and quarterback coach, I was like, heck yeah, because he trimmed out all the fat. That's the make a mistake, make it fast. But it wasn't making a mistake. It was, no, I'm playing fast. I know what I'm seeing right now. Like, and that's why I'm going for that. So that's why I was like, yes, Hurts has some frustrations as a thrower. You just mentioned like throwing in the middle. Yes, he's not idealistically how I like a perfect quarterback to play. But if his strengths are that strong like they were today, then it's very, very hard to beat. If he plays like that and they figure out these questions, they got depth coming in. Yes, they might have a drop off depending on what they do. They have their picks. They have ways in how he's so creative in figuring out guys. I mean, this is a team that went and got Mekhi Becton to fill in at right guard. And did he drop off the playoffs? Yes, a little bit. But man, they got a guy that was a needle mover in some games. It's like just little things like that add up. These are the percentage points that add up. And that's what the Eagles just keep doing.